Thanks, Juan. Not sure, maybe it's easier to just turn off the video now, so if more people want to join, they can join. And I'll just share my screen. Okay, so
So really, can you share the link to these slides?
yeah, I'll share. I would rather we go together through them though, and in the end I can post the link.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. Thank you. So yeah, thank you all for joining. I'll just give a brief introduction of what we're going to be going through today. And I'm calling this having relational insights to govern commons. And the TEC cultural build has been built over Ostrom's 8 principles. So self-governed culture has been working to implement the 8 principles into our cultural build. And we've been having so many insights from this. And I just want to share some of them with you. And also to honor all of this course as has been happening and all of the speakers that spoke so far. And it's been very, very beautiful to see everyone's commitment and everyone showing up here every week. So yeah, we'll have a little exercise of presence. And I would just ask for everyone who is unmuted to please mute yourself because I can hear some feedback. Thank you. Yeah, so we'll have a little exercise of presence and then go into the relational clues from the 3 influential models that are very present in Ostrom's book, and then go into the 8 principles and have an individual exercise. And then if we have time, we're going to go into breakout rooms and return for a final round. But if we don't have time, we'll still have the individual exercise and some collective sharing in the end for whoever feels comfortable for it. So the exercise I want to propose is a bit of a challenge, but I believe in us. I think we can do it. I think, well, for me at least, this is my 4th hour of consecutive call. And I know how sometimes screen can affect our presence and our ability to be here and listening. And I'm from a theater background, and we used to do this exercise a lot, but it's very simple, just arriving in a space and saying, I am, and my name. So I am Livi, and just saying your name out loud really brings you to presence. And also another thing is being aware of space and time. So here is particularly challenging because we are in a virtual space, and the time of like, I don't know, unmuting, muting can be a little chaotic. But I want to propose us to do this. We're not going to call up next on no one. So we're going to fill in when we want to say I am and our name. And I really hope that everyone here can do that. And your name means like however you like to be called. So I'll say it, and then someone else will pick up next, and someone else will pick up next, and someone else will pick up next. And hopefully we'll get the whole room pretty quickly just to get started. So I am Livi.
I am Durgadas.
I am Juan Carlos.
I am Jean.
I am Humberto.
I am Huddles.
I'm Morgan.
I am Christopher.
I am Maggie.
I'm Kinnick.
I am Lux.
I'm Peter.
I'm Tamara.
I'm Nathan.
Nick.
I am Brittany.
I'm Eunice.
Aloysius, please pick up again. Thank you, everyone. I trust that everyone who feels comfortable to speak up, that you did. And if you don't feel like speaking up, it's okay too. Maybe just say it for yourself in there, that you are who you are and you are here and present, and we can get started. So Ostrom's book is really based on those two main topics of, hey, writer, can you please mute yourself? Thank you.
Livia?
Yeah?
Morgan. Be possible to put it on presentation mode so we can see it a little bigger?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So the three influential models is one of the foundations of governing the commons. So the three influential models, and also the 8 principles for governing the commons. And on the three influential models is basically the foundational of what the state and the market have been using to say the importance of using either the state or the market to govern public goods, while in reality here we are trying to find a different path. So we're not building systems that are similar to either the state or the market, or the private institutions. The market, when I say market, think of like private companies. We're trying to build a third path that is of shared ownership of self-governing communities. So the DAO space can be considered a commons, and there are so many public goods that are considered commons. And governing these public goods has been the biggest challenge in humanity, and organization being at the core of this. So that's why it's so important that we look into them. And before I was, sorry, I'm just gonna exit quickly to see some of the speaker notes, but maybe I can make it bigger somehow. Maybe that's better. So previously I looked into this 3 influential models, explaining them, but we're not gonna like go too deep into them right now. But I wanted to look into the insights that they offer on relational aspects. So the tragedy of the commons, maybe many of you have heard about already. I picked 3 phrases that exemplify kind of what the tragedy of the commons is. And from here, we're gonna look into like, what is under the lines? What is being said without fully being said? How these phrases of the people who wrote these models can give us insights about the values of the communities, of the systems that they were being built at. So what is common to the greatest number has the least care bestowed upon it. Everyone thinks chiefly of his own, hardly at all the common interest. This was Aristotle who said long time ago. So what is implicit in this phrase is that individualism is what is dominant whenever he wrote this. So if I only think chiefly of my own and hardly at the common interest, it's because there is very little room for collaboration in the society values. So there is a harmed sense of community and belonging. And then the second point of Hope's parable of a man in a state of nature is a prototype of the tragedy of the commons. So he says that men seek their own good and end up fighting one another. So this is another example of individualism and also lack of shared values, because if you seek your own good and that leads you to fight one another, is because your own good is not the good of the other. So there is a lack of community, again, a lack of belonging, and this brings violence. And then the third point, wealth that is free for all is valued by no one, because he who is foolhardy enough to wait for its proper time of use will only find that it has been taken by another. This is one of my favorite ones in terms of like how much psychological insights this give, because he who is foolhardy enough is this sense of being ridiculed, is a lack of trust, is vulnerability seen as weakness. So it's like the opposite of reciprocity, and how this, in a very personal level, affects so deeply the system that people who believe in this individually are inserted in. So the prisoner's dilemma is another model. All of them are very related to the tragedy of the commons, but are like different ways of observing the same type of tragedy. And in a prisoner's dilemma game, each player has dominant strategy, in the sense that the player is always better off choosing this strategy, no matter what the other player chooses. So this is like lack of communication, is also lack of trust, and feeling like there are no choices to exit the system. So it's in the name already that it's a prisoner's dilemma. And if this is in the core of the systems that we are inserted in right now, all of these conversations we have about freedom, it makes sense, this distance that we have from the concept of freedom, because we are in so many prisoners' dilemmas. We are leaving this like lack of communication, lack of coordination, lack of community, and the feeling of impotence, like the feeling of I can't exit the system. And there's something I learned in game theory also, that a game is considered a good game when it's as easy for you to exit as it is for you to enter. So you should have that ability of choosing when you want to be playing something and when you don't want to be playing something. And we've been playing a system for too long that we didn't have the choice to be playing. And then the second is the paradox that individually rational strategies lead to collective irrational outcomes seems to challenge a fundamental faith that rational human beings can achieve rational results. So this, the etymology of the word rational comes from ratio, that is a quantitative aspect. And if we look into humans from a quantitative perspective rather than a qualitative variable, then we are undermining so many of our characteristics and thinking like we fit a box that we don't fit. And this is a problem that academia constantly has in relation to like empirical experiments, because there is so much of the theory that just doesn't fit reality. And then we build models based on this theory, and those models just don't work. But then we need to like keep cutting ourselves literally to fit into the systems. And then the logic of collective action is most known as the free rider problem. So one who cannot be excluded from obtaining the benefits of a collective good once the good is produced has little incentive to contribute voluntarily to the provision of that good. So what is the incentive to contribute voluntarily to something? Like, what makes you want to do something even though you're already receiving benefits from it? I think there is a big question of well-being, about how people feel pleasure in places, about how people feel seen, how they feel like they belong, how can bonds be created. There is an experiment I love that a musician made, where he went through all over the world, got connected with people from more than 25 languages, and all of them expressed that they wanted to be loved, and that they wanted to be happy, and that they wanted to be healthy, and like all of these basic things that are from like very much the human existence. So if these things are being provided, voluntary, like actions come voluntarily. So this is definitely a big missing piece of the systems that we've been working on, coming from the state and the market. Also considers it an open question whether intermediate size groups will or will not voluntarily provide collective benefits. His definition of it depends not on the number of actions involved, but on how noticeable each person's actions are. So this is also another indicative of how important it is for people to be seen. And in this sense, from where he's coming from, he's speaking more about like a surveillance type of state, where people were seen in a way that they don't want to be seen. But then when you shift this to all of the other values that we were speaking about, and you bring this eyes to someone with love and with acceptance and with belonging, we can have very beautiful effects of this voluntarism and the collective benefits that everyone can have by being seen. So from this, I want to jump into the 8 principles for governing the commons that has been guiding so much of our work. And I'll just go very briefly between them, and maybe you can identify them on like practical examples of things that you live in your lives. And if you're an active member of the TC, also thinking about like, oh, where are they present? How are they being shaped in the TC? So clearly defined boundaries is just being able to exclude people from appropriating something, or having clear directions of who can appropriate resources in that system and who can't. So in the TC, we've been using the trusted seed for the initialization of our economy. So only aligned individuals could participate in the hatch, only people that wanted to advance token engineering as a field and not look for immediate profit. So any community can find what are their initial set of boundaries, and also how we relate with each other. And something very big in the TC has been the preventative culture. So we want to prevent all of the bad things from happening by providing all of the values that make people feel good, that provide connection, that bring community belonging. So we don't need to go to extremes of the reactionary actions that we would need to take only when things go really bad. And then principle 2 is congruence between appropriation and provision. So this is basically rules to keep the balance of the system going and keep the sustainability of it. So how can we make sure that we're not going to deplete all our resources if we continue to use them freely? Like, what types of rules need to be there for us to continue to be abundant? And then number 3, collective choice arrangements. It talks about how the people who are in local circumstances should be able to change their local circumstances. So if you're involved somewhere, you should be able to change the rules of that system. And this comes really I think this is one of the most important aspects, especially when talking about governance, is like, what do we need to do to allow people this agency? And what is the structures we need to have for this agency to come naturally and come in a way that it's meaningful for the whole, and that it's not going to damage the public good that's being shared within everyone. And then monitoring. I think Ostrom has a really cool way to look at monitoring because it's a positive monitoring structure. It almost looks like a reward. Like if you're given the chance to monitor everything that's happening around you, you're going to have more access to information, which is such a powerful resource. And you're just one of, like, you're equal to everyone. So it's not like an external authority is monitoring the work being done by someone else that creates weird power dynamics, and there's much of a dialogue happening. And then this kills a little bit that sense of like, oh, I'm being like a fool that I'm complying and no one else is complying. So this mutual monitoring puts everyone in this place of being seen as a positive thing. And then graduated sanctions is a lot of what we've been working on with Gravity. That is, if we need to have some type of control over, like, it goes along with number 1 and 2. So if our boundaries are crossed, or if the rules to ensure that we are abundant are broken, or if people were feeling like not well in the space in some way, if conflicts arise, there are multiple ways of seeing conflict. And also something really special that she brings is this frame of like having forgiving rules and forgiving sanctions. So if you have something where someone broke a rule, or someone did something that created a conflict or that made people not feel good, they want to have the chance of forgiveness. And then how can we build structures that goes back into the talk that Lorelei gave the other day of like restorative justice? How can we involve the people that are part of conflicts to be the ones who solve the conflicts, and empower everyone to have this ability to look at problems in a way of solving them, and to have some scales of what actions can be taken depending on the seriousness of the infliction that happens. And I think with the preventive culture is much harder, that we'll have very serious things happening, but it's possible that they happen. And how can we have such a strong foundation to be able to support that? So some of the things that, some of the sanctions that we can give now in terms of the boundaries, like if someone has a behavior that is totally not aligned with the community, maybe they can be removed from the trusted seed. Maybe they can lose their holdings. Maybe they can lose governance power. There are a few measures that we can take that can be discussed for each type of scenario. And it's really amazing to have all of you interested in this, because everyone is bringing different perspectives to how we can look into conflicts, and people belong in different areas of the ecosystem, and that also brings a lot of information that helps us take a fair stance over everything. So while I spoke about graduated sanctions and conflict resolution mechanisms, so one thing she talks about conflict resolution is that they should be available for everyone at a low cost. And this is something we've been working on since the beginning of the cultural build in the TC, and Juan came to help so much with that. So also having these trainings and just these spaces for us to talk about this for free, and opening space for education around this topic is part of this approach of having conflict resolution mechanisms available and at low cost. And then minimal recognition of rights to organize talks about if you're creating your own rules and boundaries and collective choice arrangements and you have this whole structure, it would be awful if someone with more power can just shut all of this down. So she's speaking mostly about like if we are doing this, could the government of a country just stop us? Like, what are the minimum recognition rights we need to organize legitimately in the way we are organizing? And for this, we have the trusted seed, and that's our legal strategy. Having a legal association to protect at least the initialization of the TEC. And then nested enterprises are just for commons that are nested within larger commons. And I mean, we're all nested within larger commons. Like we are all nested within planet Earth. That is the biggest commons we share. And just having this awareness of how many systems are within systems and which ones do we belong to, especially when designing a new system is very important. So what are all of the other enterprises that we are inserted in? For example, the TEC is within the XDAI community and the Ethereum community and the DAO ecosystem, and creating relationships between all of these groups is super important. So we're also working a lot on this DAO to DAO relationships. I hope this was understandable, and I ran a little bit because I want us to have space to go to this exercise. And feel free to send me questions over the chat or PM me at any time. And I want to move to this phrase that I've been talking a lot about it like everywhere, but it really, for a long time, but it really resonates with me because it clicked so many things in myself from understanding this. So I had the pleasure to be in a meeting with Dominic Barter, who Lorelai was speaking about the other day. He's a big guy in restorative justice and NVC, nonviolent communication. And once I was the first NVC meeting I ever went, he said this that stuck with me, that is, the source of violence is the choices you didn't know you could make. And these choices, they can be very personal and they can be very systemic. So when we understand the systems that we are in, and coming back to the prisoner's dilemma, like feeling like we can't exit the systems and feeling like so many choices were just like forced upon us, this creates a sense of violence. And what I want to propose to us is that we can open paths to understand the self-inflicting violence we have upon us, the self-conflicts that are the root of collective conflicts. So if we understand on a very personal level, what are the questions that that we didn't ask ourselves, what are the choices we didn't know we could make, that we could have, and how they've been violent with our presence. And once we start to find our expression as like adults and human beings in the world, a lot of these things, they start to be suffocated and they might explode in different ways and we don't even know where they're coming from. Like, who asked me if I wanted to be in a capitalist system? Who asked me if I wanted to be a woman? Who asked me if I wanted to be, I don't know, like, there's so many, like, educated in a certain system, you know? There are so many things that we didn't know that we could choose. And in fact, as we were, like, being born, we couldn't choose. But then how to reclaim ownership of this thing? So I want to propose an exercise that is to identify some of this stuff. So there are two questions that have been very powerful for me. One of them is what ways people treat you that you really don't like, and are there uncomfortable states you feel often because the way you were or are treated? I want us to take some time to do this, and I would love if either you can have, if you have a paper around you, or if you want to do like to open a doc and write it down, or the notes on your computer. We'll take 5 minutes. Why so short time? Because they should be intuitive. Like you know deep down what are the things that make you feel uncomfortable, and what are the ways that people treat you that you don't like. So you won't have to share this with no one unless you want it. So take this time to be very with yourself, and to check in, to ask how you're feeling right now. And sometimes things come to our mind that it feels like, oh, I don't think this. Like we tend to judge this thoughts or these images, but feel free to write them down and to be vulnerable with yourself, because this is just for you. So I'll give 5 minutes, and also I can share my own exercise if someone has a question of how to move forward from here. We have 2 minutes still, but I'm just gonna share the ones I did in case this can help anyone. So I was reflecting on this on the weekend, and for me, things that are uncomfortable and the way I'm treated is to not be a priority in my intimate relationships, to not feel heard, to be treated with seriousness instead of joy, and to feel abused. So these were mine, and we'll go more in depth into it in the next exercise.
I can also share mine. And
Juan, sorry,
yeah,
I think we'll open space for sharing later.
okay.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to give one example,
Sorry.
but we'll move forward with another part of the exercise. Thank you.
Perfect.
Does anybody need more time? We'll take the silence as a good sign. And we can move to the second part of this question. That is starting a self-dialogue. So from the answers that you gave to yourself, how can you start talking with those statements? Like, what are they trying to tell you in the hidden lines, kind of like we did with the statements from the 3 models? What is there that maybe you haven't looked at it before? So try to build questions for you to answer. And then whenever you build those questions, you can add, if you want, a scale of 1 to 10 of how much this affects you. This is only if like numbers help you to map yourself, but you don't need to do this one. So I'll continue the example from mine, and then from here we're gonna break up into some rooms for a little bit, so whoever wants to share can share some of their processes. So from not being a priority in my relationships, the question I ask myself is, how can I prioritize my feelings, desires, needs, and well-being? From not being heard, how can I open self-dialogues to identify my needs and express myself better? How am I not hearing myself? From being treated with seriousness instead of joy, am I taking myself too seriously? What am I afraid, guilt, or ashamed of? And from feeling abused, what is blocking me from creating healthier boundaries? So this can be like some of the questions that you can start opening for yourself, but it will look different for everyone. We'll have 2 more minutes before we go into the rooms. I hope everyone is doing all right there. And so we're gonna go into breakout rooms. You can stay here exactly where you are. Don't move, and I will move you to the groups. And there, what's gonna happen is that, realizing some of these things sometimes become way easier when we have a space to share and to open dialogue. And it's totally fine if you just want to be in listening mode. You don't want to open your camera. If you want, you can be totally quiet. But if you want to share anything that you found out about some of the choices that have been that you feel like have been taken away from you, and what ways people treat you that you don't like, and what are uncomfortable states you feel often. So this is starting to recognize patterns, and whenever we talk about them, it's usually very relieving. So I want to give this opportunity for us to chat a little bit about this, and we'll have about like 5 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes, and it can be like a minute or two sharing for each, if you feel like. So I'll start moving you right now. If there's anyone that don't want to be put in any group, just please let me know. Hey, Juan, do you think you can help me to move people to the groups?
Yeah, I was looking and I can actually drag people. So yeah, that's amazing.
And anyone, feel free to jump into the groups you want as well.
Cool. This is the first time I've seen someone use Discord for breakout rooms.
Yeah, that's true. Me too. Yeah, hi everyone.
Does anyone want to share? Does anyone remember how much time we were supposed to have per person?
No, I don't remember.
I can do the timing. I can start us with 2 minutes each as a guess. I'm not sure what she said. Who would like to go first?
Yeah.
When yours up? Just checking.
No first.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to go first, Michael?
Yeah, I can go first. So yeah, I was thinking what I really don't like, and one thing I don't like is that, like, if I'm expressing concerns about something or uncertainty about a problem that someone might have overlooked, for example at work, and people like go over it and don't care much about it. And yeah, and in this situation, then I feel that I'm not valued that much, or I feel misunderstood. And yeah, I'm not sure if like we want to collect and then go deeper, or if I should also talk about the questions I came up with.
Yeah, I'd say take up the full 2 minutes. We'll see what comes out and who we get through.
So I didn't get it. Should I go deeper now, or what do you mean?
What do you guys? Yeah, let's go ahead. You spent about a minute for the first part, so we'll give you another minute for the second part.
Okay. And yeah, so I was asking myself, why do I want them to listen, or like why I feel misunderstood or not valued. Maybe I'm thinking that my value depends on what others think about me. And so, yeah, this is something I know, which I want to get rid of. But yeah, this might be the cause. I'm not responsible for solving problems for others if they don't care, or yeah.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for going first. That was very brave. Jean, you're the only other one on camera. Do you want to go next?
Sure.
Okay, I'll time you for 2 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Well, I guess it's a little bit similar in the issue that it's based on what other people think primarily, but I guess how I perceive that other people think, because like, how do you ever know really? But I have like an inferiority complex that's pretty severe, so I term it as like imposter syndrome. So essentially, I respect people of intelligence that I'm privileged to be around significantly, and when they are at their best and being intelligent and deserving my respect, I feel that I am like not a part of it. And when they confirm that and treat me like I'm not relevant or not a part of it, that's something that upsets me in a way. And not angry, but just makes me feel like I need to be on the outside looking in versus participating internally. So yeah, I kind of came up with the same question though. Is that my own perception of other people, or is that my turning my own internal worries into reality by reflecting that onto them? So I don't know. This is the kind of discussion that I like to have because it's by intelligent people, and I don't know the answers, so I'd appreciate any feedback.
I hear that open for feedback, and I'd like to give a minute to anyone who would like to give Jean feedback. I will give you feedback, Jean. It's funny, I'm used to being asked for feedback in the sessions I do with people, but for this one, I was like scooting it away every time it came up because I didn't expect it. But I just kind of want to tell you that you're worthy and you are that intelligent person in the room. And when you don't bring yourself into the room, then like everybody's missing out on what you have to offer.
It's exceptionally kind. I really appreciate that. It's really nice.
Yeah, and what I also would like to add is that like people tend to think people are intelligent because of things they like achieved, or like because they have a title or something, but yeah, this is not really like what counts. It's like you can really, yeah, I would not like, I was at university and I met a lot of people that were really worried about other thinking about how intelligent they are. Okay, yeah, to make the point, yeah, you cannot really judge someone without knowing him deeply, and yeah, so that's what I wanted to add.
And I'll add that, you shouldn't judge yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like you're like absconding them from judgment and like putting it on yourself. So you can find that. I'll go next unless Sky, REI, or Zeptimus wants to go.
You can go.
Okay. I'll give myself 2 minutes. I didn't do the exercise because I didn't want to cry. So I'll do Livi. But I'll do it now. What are the ways people treat you that you really don't like? I don't like to be put on a pedestal or like for people to like have very like high expectations of me, and then when I fall off that pedestal, then I get like blamed or accused of things. I guess like I'm mildly autistic, or I'm autistic, and I also like to just like state what I see. And I've learned social nuance to deliver that, but sometimes I just want to be straightforward and be like, this person hasn't been around for 3 months. Maybe they shouldn't be in this leadership position that, you know, is guiding our consensus. And then people are like, we don't think you should decide. I'm like, I have this in the proposals channel because I want to see what people think about it. And people just will make assumptions that I'm power grabbing. People will make assumptions about me that I'm an individualistic, narcissistic prick. And I'm like such a collective, oneness oriented Jew that like it just makes me sad. It makes me sad that people are trained to like see me as something I'm not. And when Michael was talking, I was relating to the misunderstanding. That's like a deep wounding for me, is being misunderstood. And I'll make myself small, and I'll leave channels, and I won't make myself public. But I think the ways that I do have a lot of self-dialogue, and I learned a lot about empowerment and self-dialogue from 12 steps, specifically ACA, which is a behavioral version of 12-step, not so much related to substances. And my time is almost up, but yeah, just building relationship with myself and building my relationship with others who are relating to themselves, and like learning from each other how to empower, because we weren't taught that, most of us. So I'll end with saying healthy reparenting. Okay, Zeptimus, I'm gonna pass it to you.
Oh no, yeah. Thank you for all your kind words, guys. Like I'm not. For me, it's so hard to express myself. Like what I do normally, like I don't know, like for example, I align with what you both said, like Ryder and Mewer. Those are two situations, like like when I don't like when I talk about a problem and I don't feel heard, that hurts me. But like I usually just run away, right? Like okay, and I feel like that's my escapism. Like like yeah, when there's something like I just don't like, I just like I do not understand, and I don't know, I just feel like running away and go in my comfort zone. And I mean that's probably not helping me to reach sometimes some goals, but yeah, I don't know, that's what I normally do. But yeah, but then also like I think it's have a good thing, like if like if you're running where you're not feeling comfortable, then you end up in a place where you feel comfortable, right? So yeah, I don't know, maybe sometimes it's preventing you to do some stuff, at the other time like it's helping you to find like the where you want to be. I don't know. Yeah, that's my words.
Thanks for sharing, Zeb. I just came to pick you guys up to go back.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
This is really special.
Just want to say a few closing words. So I'm really thankful that you all went through this exercise. It's a powerful one for me. It has been with me for a while, and well, the place I wanted to arrive is that we can take ownership back. We can make new choices. When we identify the choices that others took without our permission that have been bothering us, or the systemic choices that we don't feel like we belong to, when we bring to the personal level, there are these little choices that we can identify and make new ones. There's this very wise woman that I had the luck to meet in Egypt, and she asked me that question: what do you hate the most that people do to you? Like, how do you hate that people treat you? And I said very quickly, I hate when people ignore me. And she said, when are you going to stop ignoring yourself? And that was very powerful, and it has been resonating with me since. And I'm honored I could share that with you. And I think this path to empowerment and to taking ownership and to having agency is a substantial path for participating in self-governing communities, because self-knowledge is what can bring us this feeling of community, of autonomy, of interdependence, and not codependence, and not independence also, but understanding that we're all connected, and that if we share the same values, what I want is the same that you want, and we don't have to fight for it. And informing ourselves of our processes also helps us to guide others through healing processes and through conflict management places. So self-knowledge is the path to agency, cooperation, confidence, ability to support yourself and others, and the way to find your true motivations, all very important aspects to governing our commons. Thank you so much for your time today, and feel free to continue these conversations with me anytime, or with anyone here. I think maybe you can reach out to each other, and I'm sure this would be very welcome for a lot of people too.